It's the Abba podcast. Let's go. And we're live on the podcast with the next guest, a veteran of sports journalism, Phil Rothfield. Buzz, how are we, mate?
Yeah, I'm going good. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Can't complain. Talk to us. Round two. What did we learn from the week that we didn't know previously?
I think we learnt that there's a bit of a division opening up, haven't we? In the premiership, the good sides are winning really, really impressively. The poorer sides aren't going as well as they might have hoped during the off-season. But it is early days. Look, I've said for a while there's six obvious top teams: Storm, Roosters, Panthers, Raiders, Rabbitohs and Eels, first division. Then you got a second division. I think there's four clubs: Knights, Titans, Sharks, Warriors. And then the third division: Broncos, Manly, Cowboys, Bulldogs and Dragons. But, as I've said before, you don't win or lose comps in March, and there's obviously going to be improvement. Is the Roosters form line, if it was a racehorse, they played Manly, who didn't turn up. They played a very, very ordinary West Tigers side, so we won't really get a good gauge until they play their great rival South this weekend.
Yeah, it's a big game indeed. And just talk about some of the controversies that happened in the week that passed. You yourself, you lifted the lid on Felice Kafusi and the dirty tactics with the elbow coming down, and he's done this 3 times inside of 12 months. Talk to us a bit about that and how you feel that the game should go ahead in punishing such repeat offenders.
Well, I thought that was a dog shot. It was a really, really low act what he did. For a player who was on the ground, then to cock the elbow and come crashing down his head. That's a really, really dangerous, cowardly play as far as I'm concerned. He has form. In my column last week, I ran a very similar image in Golden Point extra time, round 8, against the Roosters at Suncorp last year. He did the same thing to Boyd Cordner. In Origin, he had his elbow up as Cordner came in to tackle him. Most players in that situation would use their palm to get rid of a defender. And I'm glad the NRL have finally caught up with him. What's alarming is the grading of the charge. I thought it was so serious it could have been referred to the judiciary. We're not going to rub out this sort of behaviour on the field unless we go heavier with suspensions. 2 weeks is totally insufficient, and it should have been something more like 6 to 8 weeks minimum.
Yeah, look, it is, especially with the concussions and the way that the game's going. I feel that they do need to stamp this out and as soon as possible. You got to tell us the difference between Dallin Zelensniak and Jesse Rayman. What are the difference between the incidences, or are they the same, or what's your opinion there?
I thought Rayman was worse because he sort of belted him from behind, didn't he? But look, there wasn't a lot in it, and what fans want. I think all fans, like Paul Kent loves Biffo, right? He loves rugby league old school. But even he went ballistic last night about a couple of the incidents we saw over the weekend on NRL 360. So all fans want is to get rid of foul play, to get rid of violence, because with the fatigue in the game and the demand on these athletes, it's just too punishing a game of football without, the added, with the added burden of having to watch your head in every play. But what fans want more than anything else is consistency. They want the same referee at Brookvale Oval, or to treat it as the same referee at Bank West or Suncorp or wherever the game's played. We want consistency. And you know what? The game is so fast, so furious. It's too much to expect one referee in the middle of the field to be on top of every incident. But there is a bunker. There are 12 screens, 3 officials in there. And while players are getting treated, if they can't work out quickly, that there needs to be sort of, deem what sort of action needs to be taken. Well, they shouldn't be in the bunker. And it's a really, really big issue. I don't want to keep going on about it, but I'm saying for years and years and years, you've got to think of the mums out there who are putting their kids into sport, and they want a safe environment. Kids do what their heroes do on a football field. And unless, we stamp out foul play, it'll start happening in the park, as we've seen before, and we need a crackdown. We need it to happen quickly.
Yeah, and consistency and a crackdown is needed. Let's talk about another controversy in the weekend, the Daily M scoring. Talk to us about the consistencies there and Campbelltown Stadium. What happened there? What were we watching, boss?
Really, look, I hope Sam Thaiday is never allowed to judge an award again. That was just outrageous. Luke Keary engineered that victory. I know Morris scored the tries and Tedesco was outstanding. He didn't get a point. Not a point. And you know what? Dane Laurie, the fullback, West Tigers, played okay. They were beaten 40-8. He was 40-6. He was the fullback. He got a point. Just ridiculous.
Yes.
So, they got to do something. But I like the Joel Kane system. You have someone from the two broadcasters and a radio station at the venue. That three of them do 3-2-1s. That way you take out the silly score like Sam Thaiday did. Look, there are going to be other arguments. This is all subjective. I had a whack at Ben Ikin last night. Cronulla got beaten by a goal kick. They missed 3 shots, had Townsend. Canberra got all the points. Cronulla nearly won. I said to him, what if Cronulla had kicked one of those goals? Hopefully we would have got a point. So, but, you can wear things like that happening, but Gutherson didn't get a point at Parramatta the other night, on Thursday night. His effort was superhuman. He is the most magnificent athlete and great player. Ray Price playing at fullback, he is. And,
they've got to look at this. They've got to look at it because it's the inconsistencies and the flaws. They're just far too in between now.
Look, this isn't a clubhouse, award at the local footy club. This is the Daily M Award, the most prestigious prize alongside the Clive Churchill Medal that there is in rugby league. Peter V'landys has a reputation of tackling problems and tackling them at great speed, and I'm hoping he's going to do something about this before the weekend games because it's just embarrassing. Yeah,
it is, and hopefully they get to the bottom of that. You had to sit with Joseph Sawali. Talk to us a bit about the young man and how is he looking, making his debut for the Roosters? When do you see forecast his timeline there?
Oh, well, how do you get into that Roosters side? The way the Morris boys, Joey, Mann, all those guys are playing, Look, he'll have to be patient. And same with Sam Williams. You don't change a football side that's winning and winning so impressively. But look, he'll get his opportunity. He'll be patient. Look, the Roosters are going to get knocked around as the season progresses. There's a Origin series and they'll lose a number of players to that. And look, they've got Melbourne, I think, in round 6, and then they've got Anzac Day round 7. And I think Trent Robinson is a sort of Bart Cummings. He knows how to keep his players at peak for as long as possible. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're in a really good position by that stage of the season. You look at giving the odd guy a week off, he'll take it in turns and to freshen them up before Origin and things like that. But you got to remember the Morris boys are 34, and while they're just playing unbelievably well at the moment, at that age you're going to get injuries. And look, they're going to get a chance. It's going to be really exciting. I sat down with Joseph Sawali. What a wonderful young man. As I said, it's like interviewing a 17-year-old going on 25. Very impressive, great manners, brought up beautifully. Combining a HSC with a career as a professional athlete. And I left the interview thinking, wow, we're going to be hearing a lot more about him in future years. And I I've seen, and most people have been onto YouTube and seen his highlights. It's a very, very special product, very special player, and he's got the maturity already to be able to put it all into action. I can't wait to see him play NRL.
Yeah, look, I think we all share the same sentiment. There's a lot of hype around the youngster, and rightly so. He seems like to be the complete package. But as a final question before we look and review round number 3, talk to us a bit about yourself and your career as a sports journo. You go in there, you find the stories, you dig deep, you do your due diligence as a journalist.
Yes.
How do you feel sometimes, you get the responses from Cooper Cronk and the likes, they get a bit emotional and it becomes a bit of a personal thing. How do you detach yourself from that and continue to be a professional?
Look, it's hard work, and I'm not here to make friends, and I think that's quite obvious. I'll tell you a story. Back in the old days, there was no television coverage of rugby league. When I started, Channel 7 did a 50-minute replay after the 6 o'clock news, and people listened to their rugby league on radio, and that was the only way to stay in touch of the weekend round around the grounds, and they called the major game. So in the next day in the newspaper, we wrote match reports, like Greg Alexander passed a guy, offloaded to Simmons scored, Kevin Dan or whoever kicked the conversion, Penrith led 6, and we just described the game. But now there is such a saturation coverage on television, on the internet, on your telephones, wherever you go. By the time people pick the paper up, and it does not just on a Monday morning, on a Sunday Telegraph, whenever, they know the score, they know who played well, they've listened to the press conferences. So we have to dig deeper and around the edges to come up with unique content that is going to be of interest to our readers. And this is where you can get into areas that some people don't find all that pleasant, but our readers certainly have an appetite to consume that sort of news. So, it can be difficult. It was a very stressful night on NRL 360 a couple of weeks ago with Cooper Cronk, but I stand by that story. His manager said he was a sponsorship commercial ambassador. I spoke to Frank Panisi. He said, he does a lot more than that. He coaches the halves, he coaches Jerome Luai, coaches the spine, the leadership group, and he's part of the coaching cap. And you know what? He's also on a big contract at the Roosters to do the same thing. So I found it a conflict of interest. What am I supposed to do? Just ignore it, not write it? I found it a genuine story. That's the example you got. I headbutt a lot of people in the game, and I don't particularly like it, but my job is not to protect people in the game. My job is to get every little bit of information, whether it be popular, whether it be nice, whether it be not so nice, and let our readers know. Because the moment we stop informing our readers is the moment they stop buying the newspaper, the moment they stop subscribing to our websites. And look, my job as a journalist, it's not to be popular. And as well as I do, I cop a pounding on the sewer that is Twitter. But you know what? I see people in the street all the time, and generally, we say good day, and I've got a good relationship with them. So I'm not at all bothered by Twitter. I just block the nasty people.
Yeah, look, it's important. And, myself, I look up to people like yourself that are, the hustle's real. You're doing your due diligence, like myself when I approached you to come on the podcast. I do need to do my homework, and I need to hustle, and I'm not making things up. You got to pitch your story. You got to try your hand. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You can't be, it's like you're damned if you're doing, you're damned if you don't.
No, and that's right. And, 1 week I've got sort of West Tigers fans saying, oh, well, you're always giving it to us. And last week was Manly fans because I wrote the Hasler story. He was under the pump and the club had rejected his 3-year contract offer. Who have we written about this week? I'll be off with Storm this week, because I exposed Kafusi, and not just the tackle he made, but his history of leading with the elbow. And it just goes round in circles, But look, the good people in the game understand it's the business we're in. And, I've built up some great relationships and trust over a long period of time at the telly, 45 years.
100%. And yourself, you're an approachable bloke. You've done the podcast a world of blessing by coming on. We're going to preview round 3
thank
now.
you.
No, thank you, man. Honestly, we're students of the game and we're learning from people like yourself. Round 3, we've got the Penrith Panthers at home to the Melbourne Storms. Now, the two both played in wet weather football conditions last week. One team handled it better than the other. How do you see this one going, and where do you think the key to victory is here?
I've got a suspicion that Storm are going to win this game. They're treating it like a final. After the Thursday night game at Bankwest last week, they paid, or their management paid, a charter flight home. They didn't wait round for recovery and sit around Sydney Airport the next day. They wanted to get home and start preparing for this game. And they very rarely lose 2 games in a row, Storm. And look, Penrith couldn't have been more impressive the way they've started the season. I thought they'd have some leadership issues without Jimmy Tarmow and without, the wing three-quarter who went to the Rabbitohs. But they couldn't have been more impressive. Look, the story is Cleary and whether he'll play. He took a heavy knock. I think Ivan Cleary will be smart and not play him because he's got Matt Burton there. And while Matt Burton is not Cleary, I think he understands that this is a long year. And I spoke about Trent Robinson and how and Craig Bellamy's very good at this, so is Wayne Bennett, that the experienced coaches don't get impatient. And you think about it, when we get to round 20, is round 3 going to be all that important?
Yeah.
Or is it having fit players going to be important? And it's just risky. And look, I don't think Nathan Cleary will play, but it's going to be a ball-tearing game. It is a blockbuster, dead set, great game of footy. I think Storm will win. I'm really impressed with them. The player I love there, and I'm not sure whether he's on Justin Olam or not, on Steve Crichton or not, but geez, that Justin Olam in the centres. I reckon he's the toughest player in rugby league. He's like Steve Matai ×2 for power, strength, hitting, the way he hits blokes. He is a marvellous player, and I can't wait to see him if he's on Crichton or even the other centre, And Storm are going good too. They played all right the other night, made a few too many errors in the wet, but it'll be a great game of footy.
Yeah, it'll be good to see how both teams play the conditions. And look, I think I see the Penrith Panthers in this one. They're riding a lot of momentum. I feel the Storm, it's scrutiny they copy. I mean, like James Hooper went after him yesterday as well on the show. I don't know. I think if Burton was to come in or Cleary was to play, I don't think much changes there.
No, you're right. And I said, they're a great football side. And Appy Coruscant's another one. If you take him out and take Nathan Cleary out, that's a problem. He's out for 6 weeks, isn't he, Appy Coruscant?
Appy's out for this week. He's not playing.
Yeah. So that and take the boys out who were there last year, Jimmy Tarr. It's not the side that won 17 in a row. It's still a terrific side though. But look, I'm tipping Melbourne, but I can understand why you're going the other way.
Yeah, we're in for a blockbuster Thursday. We moved to Friday night football, and that 6 o'clock kickoff at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. We've got the Dragons up against Manly Warringah. Talk to us about this one, because the Dragons edged the victory last week against like you said, a bottom tier Cowboys team. How do you see this one going?
Well, this is a bottom tier game, isn't it, on form? It'll be an entertaining game because I love edge of your seat sport, and whenever I hate a blowout. Whenever the scores are close, I can watch rugby league, 7 days a week, and this game will be close. The Dragons will get enormous confidence, particularly out of the performance of Ben Hunt, his leadership the other day, and I think they'll beat Manly. Manly improved on the SCG performance against South last week, but they were nowhere near good enough. I think it's going to be a long, long year for Manly fans, and I can't see too much positive happening there. Turbo will make a difference when he comes back. But look, I think they're missing real engine room oomph. I think losing Fanua Blake to the Warriors will be a disaster. I'm not sure that Marty Tapau is the big, powerful wrecking ball that he used to be. Still a good front row, mind you. And Jake Turbo, middle forward, but can't do it all, and he plays a different role to the traditional lock forward. You often see it taking a first pass and playing like a second 5'8". But I just think they're struggling a little bit, Manly, and I'd probably tip St George to win here with the home ground advantage.
Yeah, and
George
the halves of the Dragons played well as well last week. I feel they showed a bit of character as well defensively last week.
Yeah, they did. They had a dead set whack, didn't they? They were impressive. But still not the class of, the better sides that we were, talking about. And it'll be interesting to see whether they can back that performance up with another win. They've had a pretty good draw when you think about it, getting Cronulla, the Cowboys, and then Manly as their opening 3 games.
Yeah, look, I think it is a must-win, especially at home for the Dragons. Pressure is on Manly, and I think it will be for some time because I do also not see it easing up anytime soon.
No, I agree.
And then we've got the main game, Friday night football. This is the one we should be watching for. The South Sydney Rabbitohs up against the Sydney Roosters. Geez, where do we start here, Bus?
Well, you start by mentioning the score. Last time they met, 60 points to 8. One of the great days in the history of the South Sydney Rabbitohs and one of the ugliest in the history of the Sydney Roosters. 2 sides that dead set can't stand each other. A game of hate. But it'll be a wonderful game of rugby league. I cannot wait for this match. It'll be, we often in the past have opened the season with this football game, but it's going to be a great test for the Sydney Roosters because they've been very, very hard to judge because of the standard of their opposition. I think they're entitled to favouritism on what we've seen in the first couple of weeks of the competition. I'll tip them here to beat South, but not with a lot of confidence because it's going to be an awfully hard game. What really impressed me about South last week, after round 1, a lot of people worrying about Damien Cook. And I thought these new rules would suit him, but he didn't run the footy and he was really quiet and reserved. And he was sort of worrying about the rest of the team out of dummy half rather than playing that brilliant individual game that he's got. But he was just so explosive at Brookie the other day. Magnificent performance. And look, if Cookie has a big game, Souths are going to be on the front foot. In the middle of the field, though, you've got to say that the Roosters are stronger. And outside of Tommy Burgess and maybe Tavita Tatola, I think the Roosters are too strong in the middle.
And the return of Victor Radley. What do you think Victor gives the bench for the Roosters?
Oh, well, Victor's a madman on the football field. Not illegally, but just the way he revs up the rest of the players. And he's an inspiring player. And he just lifts everyone with those hits. And I think they missed him more than any other player at the back end of last year. And they just missed that defence in the middle. And they were conceding tries that would never, ever be conceded under normal circumstances, the Roosters. He is dead set, ready to go. He's over his suspension. He's over his knee injury and he can't wait. He's been champing at the bit for months for this game. And I can't wait to see him, and they've got some tough boys, South. Radley versus Murray. Wow. How good are those two players? Different. Murray's probably a bit more skillful, but Radley's stronger and tougher and bigger, and cannot wait to see them go head to head.
Yeah, same. Look, I think the question mark for me for South Sydney will be Benji Marshall because there's a lot of big boys and they're going to come forward and they're going to test him defensively. I think this is going to be the biggest test Benji off the bench, what he can inject to a side that could potentially be on the back foot.
Yeah, no, good point. Very good point. And Benji's interesting. West Tigers sacked him because he couldn't tackle. Then they get beat 40-8. And what was it? Conceded 30 odd the point before. I thought Benji was great though against Manly. Sparked him up. He made that bust and unloaded that beautiful pass to one of his front rowers, and that led to the Cook try. Don't worry about Benji. The Roosters will be worrying about what he's going to do to spark souse and create opportunities rather than seem as a weakness in defence. I think Benji has got a lot of respect around the competition now. And for a player who we all thought was retired at the West Tigers, he's doing a terrific job.
Yeah,
but there are question marks, and you make a good point about his deed.
it is, because strike force wise, you look at Walker, Reynolds, you got Johnson, you got Latrell Mitchell. I don't think scoring, and then Benji on the bench, they won't have problems there. And in the first couple of weeks, they really haven't been put on the back foot. And if the Roosters boys do somehow find a way to put them there, they could be in some trouble, South Sydney.
No, well, that's right. Look, it's not going to be 60 to 8 or whatever it was, that's for sure. I like that headline. Someone said it was 60 to 8, not 8. Look, it'll be a tight game. I really do think it will be. And there's just so many wonderful individual clashes across the park. Keary versus Reynolds. Wow, They won't come into contact with each other all that much with Mitchell versus Tedesco. What about Cook yesterday? Saying Mitchell was the better fullback. Cookie will have to go after Origin camp with Tedesco too in 7 or 8 weeks. And Teddy, but Latrell should be in Origin too, playing in the centres. I hope we don't make the mistake and leave him out again. I really don't.
Yeah, look, I'll share the same sentiment there. We'll look at the 3 o'clock kickoff. We've got the Canberra Raiders up against the New Zealand Warriors at GIO Stadium. Talk to us a bit about this one. And the Warriors, do you feel they can bounce back? And if so, how?
Oh, look, they've lost their halfback, Chanel Harris-Tavita for some time, and that will knock them about. And look, Cody Nicorima's the dominant half, and he'll get the job done the best he can. But I think the Canberra Raiders played poorly, but escaped from Cogger with 2 points the other day. And I think Ricky will be happy with that scenario, because it'll give a lot of players a wake-up call that you can't just turn up each week against the not-so-good sides and automatically collect your 2 points. And to play average and still win is a really, really good sign. And if they turn up and they click, which I think they will at home, I think they'll spank the Warriors. I think they'll win clearly. I don't rate the Warriors all that highly in this premiership. Maybe they're second division, and Fanua Blake's made a huge difference in the middle of the football field, but I just feel Canberra win comfortably.
Yeah, look, and how do you feel Josh Hodson's responded to the new rules, and what do you think he's given them coming back from the ACL?
Yeah, he's going okay. He's going okay. He's a great hooker. He's in the top 4 or 5 hookers in the game. The player I absolutely love at Canberra is Hudson Young on the edge. Started out and had that horrible, horrible, grubby judiciary record with a couple of eye gouges. But this player is dynamite, and he will come into contention for State of Origin this year, mark my words. He's big, strong, powerful. He just punishes teams. He's very, very fit player. He can play long minutes. And his game at Cogger the other night, he was just outstanding, and he's getting better and better every week. And I can't wait to see him against those Warriors forwards again.
Yeah, it should be a big battle in the middle. I think Adam Fanua-Blake didn't play too much minutes against the Knights with a little scare to his knee. Roger was a bit how you going last week against Newcastle as well. So I think they need a big, big performance to upset the Canberra Raiders, which I do not see happening at GIO on Saturday afternoon.
No, look, I think it's one of the easier results to tip that one. I think the Raiders could win and win comfortably.
Then the game after that, 5:30 at Suncorp Stadium, we've got the Brisbane Broncos up against Canterbury Bankstown. Jeez, how do you see this one, Buzz?
Has there ever been a 0-0 draw in rugby league?
I'm yet to see one.
We better ring Meadow and find out. Look, 2 sides that just aren't in the premiership race. And we've mentioned it before that the Broncos won the wooden spoon last year. They lost experience with Darius Boyd, and they lost their great edge forward, David Fafita, the Titans. So they're actually a worse side than the one that won the wooden spoon last year, because they're missing experience. They're missing their best impact player. They're still missing Payne Huss. They're still missing their best player, Tony Staggs. So I'm not at all surprised that they're 0 up from 2 at this stage. Really disappointed in their halves the first couple of games, and I still can't believe Anthony Milford's on $1 million a year. I just can't believe it. And I think we spoke about this on television last night. The Broncos, what do they do with the rest of this season? Pretty bleeding obvious they're not going to make the 8. So do they go into rebuilding mode at what stage? When are they going to aggressively go into the market and find a halfback on $1 million and there's a few off contract to replace Milford and use his money? When are they going to sign Staggs? So, they've got a big decision to make. Look, Bulldogs are going okay. We weren't really expecting them to be a top 8 side, were we? Didn't score a point against Penrith. Kyle Flanagan could probably be a bit sharper than what he's going. Bit disappointed in Jack Hetherington's offering so far. Thought he was going to add a bit more impact. But this is the game to see, if the Bulldogs can join that second division group of teams I was mentioning earlier and get away from wooden spoon territory.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think the big boys and the outside backs going forward haven't really laid the platform for Averillo or Flanagan to take control. I think Flanagan started the season sharp. I think he's attackively making some good decisions, but he wasn't helped by anybody. I think Kotrick still hasn't fired. I feel the boys in the middle haven't shown much. So I think a lot is on the line this week, and I feel that to be, like you said, in that Tier 2, this is a big week for the Bulldogs.
Sure is.
So, I'm going to go with the Bulldogs here. I think they should get it done. The Broncos, they come in and out of games too often. And, geez, that last 8 minutes of the first half against the Titans, I'm like, what's going on here?
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
So, Saturday at Bankwest Stadium.
I'm hanging out to get to the next game, my team.
Yeah, all good, mate. You got your team here on 7:35 Bankwest Stadium. Parramatta and the Sharks. How do we see this one? What's got to happen? What's got to change other than Townsend's kicking boots?
Yeah, well, you know what? I tip the Sharks every week because I'd rather be a loyal loser than a disloyal winner. So it doesn't matter who they're playing, I tip them. And I was really, really proud of their effort against the Raiders last week. Could have won the footy game, as everyone knows, but for Chad Townsend's kicking. They're a good side, and I was pleased with Matt Moylan. I was pleased with Toby Rudolph. I was pleased with Wade Graham. I like our wingers. I think Will Kennedy has been a terrific find at fullback, and they went really well. The problem is we're running into a really, really hot Parramatta side who are the gun with all guns blazing, and they're one of the teams to beat in Division 1 this year, and but you know what? The Broncos led them 16-0 and looked like there might have been an ambush. And Cronulla were going to have to go up there and try an ambush, just like the Broncos did before they fell in the heap. And it's all about 80 minutes. If they can get to the front, show the same defensive commitment they did against the Raiders. But, Parramatta, wow. Favourite player in the comp nearly, Clint Gutherson. Great athlete, as I said earlier. Competes every single play. So fit. I know he's been blowing up about the new rules and his rubbery legs at the back end of the halves, but you don't know that. He is such an inspirational skipper to have in that side. I reckon the rest of the players see what he does and it lifts them. It really does. And, they got big Junior Paulo up front. And, Campbell Gillard made a stack of meters last week. Reid Mahoney on fire at hooker. Nathan Brown, really, really willing player. And the 17 and the 14 off the bench last week, Niokore and Kafusi, they were terrific. And, he's got a lot of impact, Brad Arthur, off the bench. And they're entitled to be favourites, Barra. But you never know.
Talk to us about the halves. I feel that maturity from the Parramatta halves in Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses. I feel that the game management this year towards the back end of last year was improving. Where do you see these players in, World Cup this year? Where do you see Mitchell Moses?
I've been super impressed with Mitchell Moses. Reason being, he had to engineer a fight back from 16-0 down against the Broncos. And I thought his kicking game when they got their noses in front that night was superb. Again, against the Storm last week, he's up against a really, really good halfback in Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster. They switch sides all the time. And I thought he showed a lot of maturity. My problem with Mitchell Moses, sometimes I think he gets overcoached. He's got Brad Arthur in one lug. He's got the coach in another lug. He's got Corey Johns. They took him off to see Warren Ryan the other week and get a tip there. Let the kid play his natural game on instinct because he's a wonderful, wonderful footballer. You can't program these blokes. You can't over-tip. You can't over-coach. You can't over-teach. And he is a very, very good footballer. And one of the reasons Parramatta are 2-0 is his form. And I hope he continues it because he's a much, much maligned footballer who probably doesn't deserve as much criticism as he's copped over the years.
Yeah, Mitchell Moses is a gun. He's looking to make a World Cups, in part of the squad for Australia. If not, Lebanon will be more than happy to take him back. We look at Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock. We come to my neck of the woods, the Newcastle Knights up against the West Tigers. Buzz, how do we see this one?
Another easy one with respect to the West Tigers. The Knights will look at the tape from the Roosters game. Smart dude, Adam O'Brien. He'll work out where the weaknesses are. I haven't seen the West Tigers side yet, but the Newcastle are too strong, too disciplined, too powerful. And the West Tigers are undisciplined. Really disappointed with Luke Brooks. He no longer has excuses that he can't run the football operation because Robbie Farah's gone, Benji Marshall's gone, Josh Reynolds has gone. It's his footy team. His kicking last week, how many line dropouts did he present the Roosters with? Kicking too deep and seven tackle restarts, I meant, not line dropouts. Until they can find someone to steer them around the park a bit more stylishly than what's going on at the moment, they've got problems. Couldn't believe how poor James Tarmow was. Did you see Lindsay Collins burst through and set a try up the other day? And poor old Jimmy Tarmow, I don't know if he was gassed, fatigued, whatever. He sort of just, stuck an arm out, but was hopelessly beaten. And look, bottom tier team, wooden spoon contender. So Knights will win and win easily. Yeah,
we welcome back Kurt Mann this week. Joseph Leilua gets dropped for his poor defensive reads over the weekend. Talk to us a bit about Maguire. He's a coach that's built on hard work ethic, philosophy, defensive-minded. The Tigers don't seem to be buying into any of that, and there's no game management, no control. And they got rid of last year Benji Marshall, who was attackively their only hope of scoring points in any game.
Yeah, look, the team they started the year with, the 17, was Madge's team. There was only 3 Ivan Cleary players left from when he was there, and that's what's disappointing for the West Tigers, that Madge's had the opportunity now with Reynolds gone. He's still got Moses Mbai on Big Coin and, a couple of other players who overpaid. But look, I don't know about Mads. They've signed him long term and for another couple of years. I know there's great concern about the way they've opened the season, particularly last week. They haven't been in the football game. Whenever Mads gets hard and starts criticising them publicly, they just turn it up and say we're walking on eggshells and we don't like this way of doing things. And so I don't know what he does. I don't know where he turns. And look, he'll have some cap money available, but I can understand if West Tigers fans are running out of patience. I really can, and because their performances at the moment are just not good enough and nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, look, he's in a sticky situation, Madge, because I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't see anything changing. I don't know how and where it changes from.
No, I totally agree with you. They're in a lot of trouble. They're a concerned club in the NRL.
Yeah, then we look at Sunday, 6:15 in Queensland Country Bank Stadium. We've got the Cowboys up against the Gold Coast Titans. Talk to us about that and Where do you see this one? Do you see the Titans are bit favourites here?
Yeah, look, I think the Titans will win, but it'll be close. We've forgotten that loss to St George. That their best player Tamalolo wasn't there. They've got to work out, what to do with Holmes and get him injection into the game better than he has. Michael Morgan's been disappointing. So when you've got blokes at $1 million, they've got to pay their way each week, and Morgan and Holmes aren't. And their other $1 million player is out of action, Tamalolo. So that's what the 30-year cap, and they're not producing. The clubs are doing well. They're big money players. They're top 5 who soak up such a big part of the cap, perform consistently. And this is one of Manly's problems, with Jake, DCE and Tom. They're taking up a lot of the cap and they're not in form, and one's out injured from stupidity racing down the course. And I think the Cowboys have this problem too. And look, I think the Titans are better coached. They've had a great start to the year, terrific fullback in Brimson. Taylor's out, but Fogarty's doing really well with the captaincy, co-captaincy. Pino out the back at lock or in the middle, and Fafita. Wow, two very, very dangerous forwards. And look, I think they'll win, not by a fancy margin, but they've just looked the much better side in the opening 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think the strike power that the Titans possess outweighs the Cowboys. I feel that North Queensland might be in for something unless Morgan can turn back the clock and do something and take control of this team that's in desperate need of control.
Yeah, it's been a long time for Michael Morgan, though, hasn't it? And they're just not getting value for money out of him. He's played poor, for a few seasons now. Look, I know he's had injuries, but the time on the field hasn't justified his pay packet. And that's been one of the biggest problems for the Cowboys post the Jonathan Thurston retirement.
That's true. And the Titans have a good squad on paper. If they can start putting it together, the halves and the spine take control, the men going forward, will put them there because they've got a lot of big boys going forward and a lot of experience there. So Titans fans finished well. The Titans finished strong last year. Their fans can be in maybe a run for the back end of the top 8 possibly.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Justin Holbrook too. If I was rating the 16 coaches in the comp, I'd nearly have him in the top 6 somewhere. Really, really impressive dude. Great with morale and leadership around the place. Very, very happy footy camp. I went up there last year and met him in his office at the Titans high performance facility. And he's really, really switched on technically. And you saw what a powerhouse finish, as you mentioned, at the end of last year. And I think they can go on with it this year, and they're a great chance for the top 8.
Yeah, a chance they are. Buzz, what coach? I know it's round 3. We're coming into round 3. Who's under most fire? Where's the pressure lying? Which club is not really happy with the direction their teams are going in?
Oh, look, John Morris has been well publicised. He's under the pump, isn't he? And, he needs to win games, and he's off at the end of the year. If Manly don't start winning, I don't care if Des Hasler's under contract or not. I think he'll be under the pump. I think Michael Maguire will be. Contracts mean nothing in rugby league. It's the worst sport in the world to have a contract in because no one seems to honour them, whether player, CEO, coach. Probably the 3 guys I mentioned then, unless you've got anyone you want to throw into it. But Nathan Brown appears to be going well, doesn't he, with the Warriors? It doesn't have huge expectations on him. He's only just started there. I'm just going through it. The Rabbitohs. Trent Barrett won't be under any pressure. Griffin's doing well. He's got a 2-year contract, and they're not going to look. I think I've mentioned the guys under most pressure.
Yeah, no, look, I think you have. Guys, Phil, Buzz Rothfield, pleasure to have him on the podcast, sharing his wisdom, breaking down round 3 with us. Being a great gentleman on and off the field. Honestly, he does his job. You can read his column at the Daily Telegraph. You catch him on Fox, NRL 360 and the likes. Buzz, thanks for coming on, mate. Any last comments for the people watching?
Oh, no, just enjoy the season. It's going to be a ripper. Get out to the footy. We're all locked in with COVID last year and we got a bit used to watching it on TV. There's nothing like the atmosphere of being at the ground, particularly up your way, Newcastle Stadium. McDonald Jones. When was I up there? The day they pumped the Roosters, was it the year before last? Remember they Sayafidi knocked out Carey?
Yeah, and
I sat in the middle of all the Knights members. I hate press boxes. You don't get atmosphere there. The sound that I love sitting out there and listening to the madness of these fans, and there are no greater lunatics in the game than Knights fans.
yeah,
When I say lunatics, I say it nicely because maybe no more passionate.
100%. That's a game that Peace Kits is a badge you're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's the one. But to sit there in the middle of that supporter group and just soak it up, oh my goodness, it was an experience. So get out of the footy, enjoy the comp, go easy on the Sharks when you're playing them, and have a good year.
No, thank you, Buzz. Look, I think you guys put 60 plus on us not too long ago. Shane was rubbing it into me. So, look, thanks for... Yeah, he was, mate, and he made me hear about it. Yeah. Then he also told me he gave Kyle his debut against us, and we all know how that happened too. Yeah. No, Buzz, thanks.
All right, well, thanks. Yeah, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you, mate. Have a good one. Take care.
Cheers.